Welcome everyone. In today's video, we are moving to the second chapter of the novel Far from the Madding Crowd. The chapter is titled Night, the Flock, and Interior, Another Interior. Those who have watched the previous video, you know what was happening in the first chapter. We are given an introduction to one of the characters, Gabriel Oak, and we are also given a hint to a meeting between Gabriel Oak and another woman in a wagon. Moving to the contents of this chapter. The chapter begins with an elaborate description of Norcombe Hill, which spans for around 2 to 3 pages of the text. You can read that here. The hill was covered on its northern side by an ancient and decaying plantation of beeches, whose upper verge formed a line over the crest, fringing its arched curve against the sky like a mane. And it goes on elaborating on the trees, the plantation, the chalk pit, sky, everything related to the landscape there. It also talks about the sounds that are heard in nature, the clearness that are found in the wind. And we are also informed that along with the wind, we can hear the sound of the notes from Oak's flute. In this image, you can see a landscape similar to that of Norcombe Hill. The chapter proceeds to give description of Gabriel Oak's hut. As you can see in the image, Oak's hut was raised on little wheels. And what are these wheels for? With the help of these wheels, the hut can be dragged into the fields for nightly attendance. There could be thieves, there could be predators hunting on the lambs. So as to be vigilant throughout the night, one can drag the hut to the fields and be attentive of what is happening in one's field. 1 year back, Gabriel Oak had leased a small sheep farm and he stocked it with 200 sheep. He had already had the experience of working as a bailiff, and before that he had been helping his father in tending the flocks. And with that experience, he was able to manage or handle the lambing season of the ewes in his farm. Ewes are the female sheep, and lambing season is the season when the female sheep would be giving birth to lambs. So he didn't seek help of a hireling or a novice. He could handle the whole process himself. In the title, we have seen the reference to an interior. So this is the first interior that the title is referring to. That is the interior of Oak's hut. Reading from the text, the inside of the hut, as it now presented itself, was cozy and alluring. Cozy, it was comfortable as well as attractive, all right? And the scarlet handful of fire in addition to the candle. There was fire, there was candle, reflecting its own genial color upon whatever it could reach, flung associations of enjoyment even over utensils and tools. So we can find utensils there, tools there. So you can see the rest of the items that are there in the room in the following paragraph. The house was also ventilated by 2 round holes like the light of a ship's cabin with wood slides. So those doors or those ventilations can be closed using those wooden slides. At this point, we can see that Gabriel Oak is looking at the sky and he could calculate the time using the direction of the stars, the position of the stars, and he can easily calculate the time. He was walking during the night and he calculated the time as 1 o'clock, midnight. The text also refers him as a person who can move from the profoundest sleep to the most alert wakefulness with the same ease. That is a beautiful expression. And according to Thomas Hardy, Gabriel Oak's life is the ideal way of life. He is living the life, or he is being one with nature. He is living in close proximity with nature. Here, again from the novel I am reading, being a man not without a frequent consciousness that there was some charm in this life he led. He stood still after looking at the sky as a useful instrument and regarded it in an appreciative spirit as a work of art superlatively beautiful. So Gabriel Org was someone who admired, or who was able to recognize the charm in the life that he was leading. He looked at the sky as a useful instrument. That is, he could calculate the time using the position of the stars. So sky is acting as a clock. And he was also ready to appreciate its charm, its beauty. Then you can read how Hardy is explaining or describing, narrating the beauty of the nature. And as Gabriel Oak was admiring the beauty, admiring the serenity of nature, calmness of the night, he saw a low light all of a sudden, a star that was lit low amongst the plantation. Oak could identify that the light was an artificial one. So he saw a low light behind the outskirts of the plantation. He went towards the plantation and found a shed from where he saw the light. So he leaned down upon the roof and looked into the shed through a hole. He could get a clear picture of what is happening within the shed. So this is the another interior that the title is referring to. The interior of a shed. The first interior is the interior of Oak's hut, and the second interior is the interior of a shed that was in the plantation. So within the shed, he could see that there were 2 women and 2 cows inside. One of the women was past middle age, while the other one was young and graceful. The women were talking about the recovery of one of the cows, and which was the reason why they were in the shed at that time. At that point of time, we know that it was 1 o'clock midnight, and this cow was the reason why they are in the shed at that point of time. And in between the conversation, the younger woman mentions about her missing hat, which she thinks she had lost near the hedge. Later, when the younger woman was moving, Gabriel Org could identify her as the same woman who was there last day or a few days back in the yellow wagon. If you remember from the first chapter, Gabriel Org saw a woman at the apex of the wagon. So this is the same woman. He had identified her. And then all of them, the 2 women, left the shed, and Gabriel Org came back to his hut. This is how this chapter ends. I hope the video will help you in understanding the text better and easier. I welcome your suggestions and feedback so that I can improve the quality of the content in our channel. Thank you for listening.